Greetings and salutations, and thank you for clicking on the video. Time for another Q&A session. I have picked some comments from YouTube, and also I have some emails I want to share with you. We're going to talk about them here for a little while. The response lately to the videos that I have posted has been huge. I'm getting tons of comments, most of them very positive, and when somebody does ask a question, I'm noticing that folks in the community jump in and answer their questions sometimes before I even get a chance to. So thank you very much for all of you who do those sorts of things. I love to see it when you guys are communicating back and forth because I learn so much from it. Some of you guys who watch these videos know a little bit more about some things than I do, and I'm always picking up little tips and tricks from you guys, so it's very cool. It's a love fest, man. So let's jump in and start talking about some of the things that have most recently gone on here and some of the questions that I've gotten. I posted a video a couple of days ago about installing Manjaro on one of my machines. That is actually going quite well. And one of the questions that I keep getting here is people are asking, I'm using the Mint version of Cinnamon and was wondering how you think they compare. Seems like Manjaro is not as complete as Mint. The video that I posted might be a little misleading and you may have missed it, but when I installed Manjaro Cinnamon, I used a minimal installer. I did not install the entire system, and the Manjaro Cinnamon community provides one that has a lot of software that's not included, which is nice because I pretty much know what software I need to get things done. So a lot of times I do network installs or I do minimal installs because it's just easier to download, and then I don't have to go through and remove a bunch of software that I don't need. And so therefore I think that the fact that I did that confused a lot of people, like the printer support, it wasn't installed. And so therefore take all that with a grain of salt. If you go to the Manjaro Cinnamon community or any of the Manjaro spins and install the entire OS, it comes very well appointed as far as software is concerned, and just keep that in mind. Also, folks in the Manjaro community have reminded me to tell you guys that if you do install Manjaro, make sure all of your hardware is plugged in and turned on, because Manjaro has a hardware detection tool, and the hardware detection tool will install all the drivers for everything you need, including your printer and whatever other devices you have hooked up. So that's really awesome. As far as comparing Linux Mint and Manjaro, in a lot of ways you're comparing apples to oranges. They're completely different systems, and they have different philosophies. Now, on the surface, just as the average user who would sit down at the machine, they do have a lot of similarities. They come with a lot of the same software, and it's the Cinnamon desktop, and it works pretty much the same way. But as far as managing the system is concerned and installing software and software sources and things like that, very, very different. Manjaro is based on Arch, and you have access to the Arch user repository. Linux Mint has the software manager, and they have access to the Mint repositories and the Ubuntu repositories. Linux Mint, the entire goal of the distribution is to be user-friendly and stable. So therefore, Mint tends to hold back upgrades on certain packages, especially things like the kernel, anything that might destabilize the system. And you have to kind of know what you're doing to be able to upgrade that kernel and move it around. Manjaro comes with a newer kernel, of course, but they also have a kernel management tool, and you can do pretty much the same thing there, but they don't hold back on updates of software quite as much as like Mint does in some ways, and I don't want to get too much into that comparison, but it's just a different attitude. The Mint is like they want it to run and keep running, and Manjaro is just a touch more cutting edge. I mean, the base of it is Arch Linux, and you can't get any more cutting edge in the Linux community than Arch Linux. Arch Linux is just the latest of everything at all times. I think Manjaro does kind of hold things back maybe a little bit in the Manjaro repositories just to make sure that there's not a major issue before an update is released. but it's still pretty close to being on the edge. And of course, anything that you install from the AUR is going to be the absolute latest. Performance-wise, Manjaro, it works wonderfully on that old Dell machine I installed it on, which is surprisingly enough all AMD hardware. It has an Athlon processor in it, 8 gigs of memory, SSD drives, and it also has integrated ATI graphics. And those are usually the kiss of death for Linux, but it works beautifully on that particular machine. However, Manjaro does not work very well on my all Intel laptop. I installed it after I posted the video about installing it on the Dell just to see what it would do, and I ended up taking it right back off because it just didn't perform very well. It was very slow, and things like playing video in Google Chrome, the frame rate was like very jerky. I was really surprised that that was going on. But however, in the AMD, it seems to work. So Manjaro seems to be very finicky about the hardware that you install it on. And the comments that I have gotten from folks have pretty much borne that out. People tell me that, yeah, it works over here, it doesn't work over there, I can't get this to install. So maybe the Manjaro folks need to work a little harder on that to try and get it more friendly to different hardware. But if it works for you, it seems to work really, really well. So I'm kind of looking forward to playing with it more. I don't actually use that machine all that much, and so therefore I probably this is kind of a long-term experiment. I'm not going to be playing with it every day, but we're going to see how it works over time. And the folks that do use that machine in the house have told me that everything is working the way it should. So this is a good thing. So in general, I'm very, very pleased with the way Manjaro went into the system, and it's a learning experience for me because I've not run it full time, and I'm going to be learning as I go. So let's move on to the next comment here. We're moving on from Manjaro to Linux Lite. This is from Jonathan Jenkins, who is a developer for Linux Lite. And if you'll recall, I posted a series of videos about Linux Lite a while back, plus a review. And he says, hi, I'm one of the devs for Linux Lite, creator of Control Center and many other things. I noticed you had issues with name, etc. for user accounts. Would it be made easier if that was tied into the user manager tool? If so, what would you like to see added? Nothing promised, but I'll explore adding to it when time allows. That aside, thanks for the really nice review and comments on Control Center. Yes, I did have issues setting up user accounts in, almost said Manjaro. Manjaro went fine. But I did have an issue there, and I'll tell you about that too. In Linux Lite, they have a user management tool which is extremely simple, which is fine. I don't care that it's simple, but it only creates an account. And I don't remember because it's been a while since I ran Linux Lite. The thing that I had the most problem with was setting the avatar for the person and changing finger information. The About Me tool didn't work, so you couldn't do that. It wouldn't allow you to do it. You had to. It was weird. It would ask for administrator privileges, but of course you're logged into somebody else's account, and then it wouldn't take it. So it was pretty useless. What I would like to see is a users and groups type tool that everything was in one place, that you could change the picture and you could change the password, and that each individual user could go to that tool and change those things. In other words, you'd have multi-levels of privileges. So if I was the administrator, then I would have the ability to add users, remove users, and change groups. And if you were just a regular user on the system, you could go there to change your password and change your picture, because I don't see why anybody needs to have administrative privileges to change those things. Your name, your password, and your your name, your password, and your picture. So that is my suggestion, is to put it all in one place. Now, I realize that that is quite a task. You're almost saying, well, I'm going to have to rebuild that tool from scratch. Really, what you could do is work on the About Me app. And in Ubuntu Mate, they have a really nice compromise. They have a really nice users tool. It's pretty simplified, kind of like what is in Linux Lite. And then the About Me app is totally different, where you can open that up and you can change things as a normal user, and it's no big deal. So yeah, that would be cool if the two apps worked fine together. That would be okay, but ideally, I would like to see it all in one place. So that's my answer to that. The other thing that I wanted to comment on about Manjaro, and I also noticed this with Ubuntu, is that both systems, the Cinnamon desktop, maybe GNOME does this as well, and that's where this is coming from. When you enter a password, when you create an account, it puts it through a password tester. And if the password is not strong enough, it won't take it. And I don't mind if an application says, hey, you're using a weak password, you might want to reconsider, but it should take my input. If I want to set my password as ABC123, it should take it, because that people who security reasons, all this other stuff, I understand, but at the same time, we're talking about home Linux users usually. For an enterprise-grade distro, yeah, you want to make sure these people choose strong passwords. But for a home system, they should be able to put whatever they want to in it. You can warn them and say, hey, this password sucks, it's not safe, but it should still take the input. And I noticed that happened in the Cinnamon desktop with Manjaro, whereas in Ubuntu Mate, that did not happen at all. It took the password that I put in, no matter how simplistic it was, and it went on about its business. And that, for that reason, I never had to open a terminal, because people complain about this all the time. To do that, you can always get around it by just opening up a terminal and issuing sudo password and then the name of the user account, and it will prompt you to change the password. You can put whatever you want in there. It's the tool that's in the GUI interface that causes the problem. So yeah, that's a couple of things. Make it so it goes pretty easy. Put it all in one place if you can. So that's my comment on that. Here is a thing that I have been hearing from Linux Lite users. I have a couple of people that I support who run Linux Lite through EzeeLinux, and basically what's going on is this guy writes, I'm a new user on Lite and I ran the install updates. Every time I try, I get the message, updating sources failed, refer to var log, Lite software log. I would like to download the Ubuntu Software Center, please help. What's going on there is Google Chrome. The 1st of March, Google Chrome dropped 32-bit support, which immediately screwed up their repository. So you have a repository entry that comes with Linux Lite, where when you install the system and you open up Lite software, they have a whole list of software that you can install. All of the repositories and the PPAs for that software are already installed on the system. So even if you're not using Google Chrome, you try and update the software through the install updates applet there, and it's going to run into that error, and then it stops cold. It just says, I can't do anything else, and throws up an error message and quits. This was a problem in Ubuntu as well, but the software updater in Ubuntu kept going. It would say, yes, there was an error, but it kept going. Whereas in Linux Lite, it just quits. And the folks at Google have fixed this problem. So as long as you have updated your Chrome, you probably are not seeing that error anymore. However, since Linux Lite has that old repository still in the system that has already been added, then you can't run updates with the updater because it quits dead. And it starts a catch-22. And if Google Chrome is not installed on the machine and you try and update the thing, then it doesn't update that repository because there's no software. You're not getting the package from Google Chrome that updates the repository. So it turns itself into a big loop. And the way to do that is to go into software. Go to software and the software app that allows you, software and resources or whatever it's called. Go in there. Oh, my mind is blanking out. I'm going to look and see here. Hang on. There we go. Go to software and updates. Open up that tool right there. And then you can go to... It's going to take a while to load. I'm doing this on the old e-machine. But you open up this application as it crunches in the background going to get it. There it is, finally. And go to other software, and here you will see the repository for Google right here. You need to remove that from the system, then run updates, and then it'll be fine. Should work okay. Alright, so that's what's going on with that. I hear a lot of people talking about it, and hopefully the Linux Lite developers will fix that. And just a little pat on the back to myself here, and a thank you that I wanted to share. This is a great comment that I got. OMG, thank you so much. This video series is something I have been waiting for years. As a longtime Windows user who's wanted to not be a Windows user, all this basic foundation stuff that's so different was what has been missing from my feeble prior attempts to make the switch to Linux. So thank you very much for the positive comment. And of course, this is referring to the series I just posted on Bash. And yes, that was a lot of work. It took a long time to do. And I kind of waited to do that because we just got 10,000 subscribers. It was like a little bell went off the back of my head and said, okay, there's enough people in the audience who are going to be interested in this to make it work. And so I did it. I don't claim perfection. I do not type very well while I'm talking. I actually type about 50 words per minute if I don't have to think while I do it. In other words, I can boogie along pretty good. But if I'm in the process of thinking about what to say and I go to type, I make mistakes. So I made typos in that video and all those videos. And it's just the way it is, man. That's who I am. But hopefully there was enough solid basic information in there to get you guys started. And that was the whole point, because Bash is huge and there are so many different options and so many different things to learn. And people are scared of it, and they're scared of that terminal. And you really don't have to be. Once you learn a few basic things, the rest of it is cake. You can figure out what you want to do with it, depending on what you want to do with your computer, I guess is the best way to say it. So thank you very much for the very kind comments from a lot of folks on that series of videos. That was something that I've wanted to do for a while. And I want to go ahead and throw this in here because I want to make some comments on this, and I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but the overwhelming number of comments that I get on my videos are positive, but I wanted to address something that I hear all the time from people, and here's what it says. Please don't take this the wrong way. Brevity, conciseness, and getting straight to the point works better than a lot of meandering blabbing. Perhaps you will remember this in future such videos. I got one word for you, fella. Bullshit. Doesn't work that way. I worked in radio broadcasting for 20 years, gang. And one of the things that I found out really quick was that people do not respond well to being talked at. They want to be talked to. They want to feel like that who they're listening to gives a crap about what they're talking about, and they want to feel like that the person is as interested in the subject as they are. And yes, my videos do run long. They're usually 20 to 30 minutes, but that is by design. I take my time and I explain things, and the vast majority of folks who respond positively to my channel compliment me on that fact. Because one of the major issues about I'd say a good 80% of the videos that you see on YouTube concerning Linux and many other subjects is that nobody talks. They don't explain anything to you. How many times has it been, if you've been a Linux user, that you have done a search on Google to try and figure out how to do something, and you find a YouTube video and you think, well, I'll watch this video, and what you get is somebody is running screen capture software. They do not say a word. They are doing the video in high definition. In other words, they're capturing from a very, very high definition screen. And so you can't see what they're doing anyway unless you yourself have the ability to play super high definition video and are watching on a big screen. And like I said, they don't say a word. They just type. That does me absolutely no good whatsoever. And if you're doing videos like that, don't bother. And the other ones, to make it doubly annoying, are the people who post videos like that, and instead of not talking and leaving silence, they post some really annoying music. It's like, oh my God, not only do I have to try and figure out what this person is doing, but I have to listen to this garbage along the way. That's an extreme end of the scale there, but most of the videos that are posted about Linux on YouTube suck. Sorry. There are a few creators out there who post really good videos. Like Spatry's videos. I will give him props. And he just now started posting again. I've watched Spatry for a long time. There's a fellow named Jay LaCroix who posts videos, and his videos are very helpful. I've learned a lot from Jay, not only watching his videos, but reading his books. But I'm not putting a bad light on anybody, but the rest of what I see, a lot of the times I walk away going, you know? They're either overproduced, they're trying to, use all kinds of animations and overproduce, but don't have any content, or they don't have any content. You know what I mean? And so therefore, one of the reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing here is a community outreach. I'm applying what I learned in broadcasting to YouTube, and I have learned a lot about YouTube in the years that I have been doing this. When I first started doing videos for YouTube, we had a 10-minute time limit. And so therefore I would really edit the crap out of things and write a script and all this other kind of stuff. I don't do that anymore. I don't do that because I found out over the years that really what people respond to is when somebody sits down and talks to them and takes the time. It's a podcast sort of thing. It's something to listen to every couple of days. I don't guarantee to be perfect. But if I sat here and worried about what I said, how I said it, and whether I was being brief enough, then the videos would suffer. It would suck. You wouldn't want to watch. Believe me, people respond to people who talk, who take the time to explain what they're talking about. And so that is what I got to say about that. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people want instant gratification. They don't understand that when we're talking about Linux, or audio for that matter, on some of my older videos, I used to get this all the time. We're dealing with intricate, complicated concepts. They take a while to explain. It takes a while for your brain to process this information. One of the worst videos I ever saw on YouTube was somebody who was explaining how to do something with Arch Linux. Actually, I think it was stepping you through an Arch Linux install. And the person had gotten an Arch Linux install down to 10 minutes. And they went so fast, and they didn't explain anything. They didn't give you any time. It was like literally they say, put the command in sudo blah, 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 blah. Boom, move on. That was it. I was like, you have wasted your time. I have no idea what you're doing here. Okay? So if you're going to be somebody who's going to post videos about Linux on YouTube, my advice, with 10,000 subscribers behind it, and believe me, I found this all out by accident, take your time. Don't overproduce the video. Nobody cares about the graphics. Nobody. These videos that I make, good Lord, I turn on the screen capture and I just record. I don't even edit them anymore. I just roll through it, and this is what we got. So take your time. Do some research first. Make sure that what you're saying is you're as accurate as you could possibly be. And just chill, man. Nobody's perfect, and nobody expects you to be perfect. You're not trying to impress anybody. Don't talk at people. Talk to them, and they will forgive you for your mistakes and the fact that you can't type when you're trying to do videos about terminals, and they'll forgive you for things that are just part of your personality, and that's how you build a community. So I'm off my soapbox now. Thank you very much, but I had to respond to that because it's a constant thing. People tell me the videos are too long, they're too long, they're too long. If you don't like that, don't watch them. And one more thing before I move on from this subject. You will never, ever, ever, ever catch me going on YouTube and disliking somebody's videos. I have maybe done that once or twice in the last year if the video was extremely bad or extremely offensive. I don't do that. And So if you come across a YouTube, if you care about the people who create YouTube videos, what you need to do is, if you come across a video that you don't like and you have a comment about it, you can post a nicely worded comment to make a suggestion that is, nice and be respectful. You could send them a private message and say, hey, you could do it that way. Or you could just not watch. But don't click that dislike button, because that dislike button doesn't do anybody any good. And I really hate that YouTube has that rating system. And while you can kind of disable it, you cannot completely get rid of it. And so, yes, like a video if you like it, but unless you really, really dislike the video, don't do that, because those dislikes are disheartening to content providers when we see those. That's just like, Anyway, let's move on. Before we wrap this rather long ramble up, I want to share parts of a couple of videos. This is one that I got from Derek. And this video I actually featured in the video that I posted when I got 10,000 subscribers. But I had to take that video down, gang. And the reason why was because I had inadvertently showed my YouTube earnings in that video. And that's against the community rules. You can't do that. And by the way, those of you that did see that video, I don't ordinarily make that much. I have one video that's really taken off. And it's the sneak peek at Ubuntu, which has 600 likes and like 100 dislikes right now. And I don't quite understand the 100 dislikes. I really don't. But hey, people are watching it, right? Anyway, as requested and promised, here is the outcome. Oh, and this is not Derek's email. This is Robert's email. Duh. There we go. This is Derek's email. I wanted to start with this one. A lot of terminal commands, the list of terminal commands were very helpful. Thank you. Also, you were correct. The Arch Manjaro community is amazingly helpful. I can hardly believe how much I have learned in just the last few days. Let's just sum it up by saying I'm no longer afraid of the command line, which is awesome. I also wanted to share a funny story with you. My wife and I maintain separate computers because she can't stand having to wait for me to finish whatever I'm doing at any given time. At any rate, when I started my Linux adventure, she laughed at my early struggles. I hesitate to call her a Windows junkie, but hey, if the shoe fits. Anyway, she stepped into our home office this morning while I was working, and she got a good look at my customized XFCE desktop. She said, "Oh, is that Windows 10? I've been thinking about upgrading." That's a sweet desktop. She went on for a couple of minutes about how much she loved the simple, clean looks and the neat launch bar I added. She nearly fell over when I finally told her it wasn't Windows 10 or any other Windows, it was Linux. She didn't ask me to reload her computer this morning, but she has stopped talking about making the move to Windows 10. So that is wonderful, wonderful stuff to read. That's why I do this. And this was a fella who had all kinds of problems with Ubuntu, and he had tried Ubuntu Mate and Ubuntu with Unity, and he'd tried Linux Mint and it wouldn't run. And I finally told him, I said, hey, give Manjaro a shot. And it worked really well for him. So that makes me very happy. And this is a longer video. I just want to, longer email. I just want to kind of go through this real quick. As requested and promised, here is the outcome of the installation of Ubuntu 16.04 on the Acer Aspire 5523. And so he talks about the laptop, and he talks about doing the install here. But there's some things I wanted to share. Here we go. I took it around to my friends this morning and never mentioned any OS name. The HP printer setup was a breeze. Connection to the router was a problem until John reminded me that it does not like new hardware connected without a reboot. So connected to the router, I went about configuring the 5523. The only thing that was new was Shotwell, which I think is great for photos. John watching and making notes. I shut down and let John restart. During boot, the Ubuntu Mate logo popped up. That's new, he said. Apart from that, he logged in, accessed a couple of favorite sites, asking him how he liked the new OS. He says can't tell the difference. He's comparing this, by the way, to Windows. I saw this as a compliment. The average man or woman does not want to be faced with things that are unfamiliar. So he goes through here and explains his friends' reactions. And this is the kind of stuff that's really cool. I love to hear about this. This fella is having a great time with Linux, Robert here, and he's sharing it with his friends. And that's what this is all about, just turning people on to something that's really cool and getting them off of the Microsoft merry-go-round. So thank you very much to both of you guys for the positive feedback. I'm sorry, Robert, that I called you Derek at first. I just clicked on the wrong tab and didn't notice. But that's why I do this, gang. This is why I'm doing this stuff, is just to spread the good word about Linux as an alternative to proprietary operating systems. And those of you who are very interested in getting to know Linux, well, you'll take the time to watch my long videos now, won't you? And that's what it's all about. Thanks for watching. We will do this again soon. And check out EzeeLinux on the web. Check out EzeeLinux on Facebook. And give it a like if you would. And do check freedompenguin.com for lots of interesting articles from wonderful contributors, including myself, about Linux.